it's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you Paul Pennant, who is going to be taking us through an hour of teamwork with SharePoint and lots of fun and laughs along the way, I'm sure. So I'm handing over to you now, Paul. It's our absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sue. So very quickly, I know there's a few of you here at the moment, but on a level of 1 to 10, how confident are you with SharePoint? 1 or 0, I have no confidence. 10, I have lots of confidence. So we're looking at, just give me an idea of which way to go this session. 3, 9, 7.54, 3, 5. Okay, 7. Okay, we need 1 or 2 more. 3. Okay, we're going to go for an average of 4 or 5 at the moment. So I'm going to go through the session, and even if you've got any ideas of what I can add, that would help as well. So the first thing to go through with you is, what is SharePoint? Well, in fact, SharePoint as a piece of software doesn't strictly exist, because SharePoint is only a template. So if I click in PowerPoint and I click on my slide master, can you see if I go to this slide here, I can just do something like change the color to red, close it down, and then all the slides I produce will have that as part of the template. The thing is, with the template in PowerPoint, it can be the size, it can be the colors, it can be the animations. There are dozens of things I can change in a master slide for PowerPoint. The same thing with SharePoint. Now, the first thing I'd like to talk about with the basics of SharePoint is the easiest way to create SharePoint would be to go to office.com and to create your SharePoint site from there. However, because of the way the Microsoft ecosystem works, you can also create SharePoint from creating an Outlook group. You can create it from OneDrive, Microsoft Planner. I can create it from Microsoft Teams. All of these will create SharePoint sites without us even necessarily being aware of them. There's another 20 ways on top of that we can create SharePoint sites. So what we're going to do now is, let me just give you an overview of why SharePoint was created. Many years ago, Microsoft staff were sharing files and information with each other, and they kept on modifying it, and then they had to make customizations or exceptions to the rule. And by the time they finished it, they suddenly realized they had a product that other organizations around the world could use and trust. The main purpose of SharePoint is to have one place where we have an accurate record of our files or information. If you send an email to somebody and they send it to somebody else, after 2 or 3 emails, nobody knows who's got the correct version. SharePoint has been designed that there's only one true version of it, and it's got all the variations around the security. Only the people in that SharePoint site will have access to the site. Is everybody okay so far, Sue?
Yep, all good. Harry said originally SharePoint was a response to Lotus Notes, which created the groupware concept. I'm old enough that I remember Lotus Notes.
I taught Lotus Notes many years ago.
Did you?
Many years ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into office.com. We're going to go into the apps part at the top, and we're going to click on SharePoint.
That's the way I always go into it.
Yeah, so this is the classic way of doing it. Now, when it comes to SharePoint, then we're going to create a site. So what Microsoft gives you is 2 choices to make a site. One is called a Teams site, and at the most basic level, the Teams site is probably where you're going to be working from. So you have a group of people, you all want to have the same access to all of the resources you have. 99% chance you're going to be creating a Teams site. The second type of site you can create is called a communication site. So if we were a bunch of architects, we'd have all the plans and all the resources and all the staffing on the left-hand side. The communication site is where we're going to show off our work. So this would be more pictures based than this side. Now, the funny thing is they're actually the same thing, but because they're templates, this is more heavy on the text. This is more heavy on the pictures. They're exactly the same thing.
Oh, wow.
But it looks like, oh, they're two different products. They're not.
Yeah.
They're basically the same thing. There's one or two exceptions, but what you can do in one, you can do in the other 99% of the time. Sue, would you like me to create a team site for you? Or
yes,
would you like
please.
Let's do a team site.
Oh, well, actually, I always use Teams. So can I change your mind and say communication?
Let's create a communication site. Now, when you go on here, this is your standard site, but you've also got all of these nice templates. So if you use one of these templates, it's going to look like, wow, look at all the work you've done. And then all you do is change the colors to your brand or the organization you're working for. And suddenly it looks like, oh my goodness, who's this cool designer? And it would literally take you minutes to start doing that. But what I'm going to do to make things easier is use what's called the standard communication. It gives you a preview of what it's like. I ain't got time for that. So we're going to call this site Sue. And let's call it comms, so I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, there's lots more layers as to what I can do in here, but you should put a description in. And even though this is the address, I can amend the address if I wanted to. Let's move on. What language? English. I'm not doing anything else at the moment.
Yeah. Someone's saying that it's more external based communications. Their viewers.
Not. It depends on how you choose to use it, because you can add external people to your site. So what we're going to do, but you'd have to go into permissions. You can't share stuff from your site unless you go into your admin settings, because Microsoft have built it that everything is super secure. So you can add members from your organization. If you try and share a file with somebody externally, the button is grayed out. It will not allow you to accidentally share any resources outside. You'd have to go into admin to be able to change that. Let's look at the site. Well, the first thing we've got is this is not a SharePoint site. This is just a template. So let's have a look. On the left-hand side, that's my home page. These are my sites. These are my news, my files, my lists. This is stuff that's personal to you. We're not going to go into that in great much detail. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you that you can edit the content up here. So I'm going to click on edit. And there's the menu that's at the top. So I could just click here and say, I want this to say the word Sue. What content do I want on the side? I can make it a link or a label. On the other side, there's a few more options, but a link means it can be anything I want it to be. So I'm going to go to Google. Let's go to BBC News. News, BBC. Okay, there's BBC News. Click on there, grab the link. Let's hope the HTTP bits come in. Yep, that's come through. Oh, goodness, what have I done, Sue? I don't know what I'm doing here. BBC News.
Don't worry, we like it when people make mistakes.
It wasn't me, it was Microsoft.
Yeah, it makes us feel better when everyone does it.
I think that's going to be correct. Let's go for news.
Yeah, Fernando says you look like Power Query IntelliSense.
So what I've got here is I've now got a link. Oops. Save it. Click on here. This should take me to BBC News. There's a lot more layers to it all, but we'll come on to that another time.
Yeah.
Now, the thing to understand that took me a while to understand is you've got this little gear up here.
Yeah.
And it's called settings. It took me so long to understand, but now I get it. I am on my SharePoint home page. So if I click on settings, it has all of these options. However, if I click on documents, the menu has changed and it's now got library settings.
Yeah.
And it's got restore this library, etc. So it took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah.
But the settings button will change based on which part of SharePoint you are in. Now, we've got this site and it's got this crazy color here. So I'm going to click on the settings. And one of the things you really want to know is how to change the look of your site. So we've got all of these areas here. So now I can change the color of my site. If you want to do custom colors, there's a guy called Doug on YouTube, who's an MVP for the UK, and he'll help you to choose customized colors, which I've done for 1 or 2 customers.
Okay.
So
But
now
he makes sure it's all accessible, so all the colors are accessible.
Well, that's actually something you need to really look into your design work really carefully.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get into that too much at the moment. It's more a case of how, because there's only like 8 or 9 colors you can choose. How can I change them if I want to? Now, these are...
Yeah, we have got a question. You don't have to answer it straight away because I know you're getting through to it. It's about adding a dynamics page to SharePoint and how to make it pull information directly. So that's just in the back of your brain for...
That's probably beyond my level, but let's see if we can figure it out ourselves. I'm going to get ChatGPT on another machine to help me with that one.
Yeah.
Here, you can change the layout. So it doesn't look very different, but this is called compact. This is called minimal. That's called standard, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So you can start changing that around. I can also start changing the color at the top and stuff like that, which makes it a little bit more fun. These are logos for the site, and this is logos for the site logo. I'm not going to go through all of them because we're just not important in terms of everything we're going through.
Yeah.
Navigation. There is a different type of navigation. So for that, I'm going to need to show you another site. So we're going to go to, pull that there, go back there, go back to my master site.
And we've got a question about the structure, actually, which is probably quite pertinent.
Yes, please.
It said SharePoint home is the site. And then within the site, we have documents and libraries and pages.
No, we have 100 more things that we can add to our site. But that's the basic template they'll give you. But when you click on the button called New, you can add all of these things. And if you add a link to your menu, everything in Microsoft is available through a link. So you can put a document on your site and that will be your whole page. You can, because the link is so powerful, you can add virtually anything onto a SharePoint site because all they're giving you is a template.
Right. So that is the template, and within that template, you can have documents, libraries, pages, URLs, all sorts of different things, all hosed within
one site.
Yeah.
So what I've got here, this is my master site. This is the one I'm starting to prepare to show people how it works. And I'm just going to go through later on what sort of stuff you can start adding on the side. So give me 2 seconds. I will definitely show you that. I wish the session was 2 hours now because I've got so much to go through with you all.
Oh no, it's yoga. Yoga's at 7 o'clock, Paul.
Leave it with me, I'll carry on. So what we've got here is I'm going to click on the gear. I'm going to, so the one thing we're going to see is this started off as a team site because the menu's on the left. When you have a communication site, the menu starts at the top. So when I click on here and change the look, can you see?
Yeah, yeah.
I can change this to horizontal. And now the site has come across the top. So you've just got to decide what works for you. Now, when we do this, if I click on pages, templates, food. So I've got this section called food. I click on it and it takes me to veg. And then these are separate pages. Yes, I've used emojis for pages just to make it more interesting. So can you see my menu there?
Yeah, so if you click on food and click on vegan, what does that do? Take you to another page then?
If I click on vegan, that's just a label. If I go to meat, so these are labels. If I go onto this, it will take me to the page. I put them in as labels for the moment because I haven't created all of these pages yet. But I just wanted to see
what you can do,
how it would work. I literally will need to create pages for this. So you can use labels or pages or a combination of two, because I don't have a page for veg. So I just have a label, then it will take me to all my pages. So when I go back to change the look, and the thing I don't like about SharePoint is I'm used to things working much faster. This is called cascading. This is called a mega menu. So now look at the difference. So can you see they're behaving differently?
Yeah. They're going the other way,
That's something for you to be aware of, depending on how you choose to design your site. Now, are there any questions, Sue, or would you like me to carry on?
They're just saying, can you add Microsoft lists to the confusion, please, as well?
Yes, I'm going to add lists to this in a moment.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go.
Lists a bit.
What we're going to do is, to make this easier to explain, everything you see here is virtually a template. So because it's a communication site, the emphasis is on images. It's all looking quite cute. So I'm now going to change my site, not the headings, not the color, but there's a button here called edit. Now, of course, there are lots of permission levels in here, but that's another subject.
Yes.
Edit. So now, what I'm going to do is click on here, and for some reason, okay, it wants me to do it this way this time. This bit here is called a section, so I'm just going to delete it. This bit here is a section. The menu has actually changed since I've last delivered this. Republish the page.
Well, welcome to the world of Power BI. It changes every month.
I really have no idea what Microsoft are on at the moment. Everything is changing. And 9 times out of 10, it's slightly better.
Yeah.
But can you see now that I've actually got an empty page?
Yes.
So once you get your SharePoint site, you're going to have this menu here. Of course, we can adapt this, but this is some of the stuff we can add. So I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to create a list. I need to ask this question. Does everybody here know what a list is? Because not everybody does. What's the answers coming up?
Yeah, I'll let you put it in the chat, other people as well. I use lists as a way to... Oh, go on, Anna. Anna's got her hand up.
Please, Anna. You speak or type?
I'm quite. Fernando said it's a mini Excel template. I think that's a good way to describe it. I use it as a way to store data. So if I'm using it with a Power App, then quite often the Power App is linked to a list.
Okay.
Anna
So,
said she knows what list is. Go on, Anna, type it in or speak.
oh no, it's okay. If we all know what a list is, then that's all cool.
Yeah.
But we just need to look at this. I can create a blank list, an existing list from Excel or from a CSV.
Yeah.
So the way I describe lists, and I'm maybe not sophisticated because I'm not a data expert, but I would say lists contain information as opposed to files. That's the way I look at what a list is.
Yeah.
So because it's got a similar structure to Excel, I can actually have any list of any design. So the one I'm going to use is event itinerary. Here it's giving you a preview of what it is. So I'm going to use this template. Showing navigation, or do all that stuff, please. So now we've got the event itinerary. So why would I use this? Well, I can now add a new item, and the session name is how to buy land and be green. Session code, happy code. Session type, keynote, blah, 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 blah. Speaker, let's use Faye. Is she going to turn up? Yep, she's going to turn up. I'm not going to do start date and end date. Capacity, 4,000. Location, and this is dynamic. So I could actually enter House of Commons or something, and it should pick up the address.
Yeah. Takimi said it's quite a good form to enter data. So what Fernando put in the chat, you know, when would you use Excel and when would you use a list? And I think,
well, most people don't use Excel correctly at all, but that's because you're all data specialists. You know the answer to that. The reason we're using it in SharePoint, I'll give you a few reasons. She talks too much. Save it. So then I could add another one in, and I'm only going to add in session name by happiness. No, I'm not going to say by happiness. Eat more food. And I'm going to put the speaker's name down as Blame Blue. And I could put all the other details in there now. So the good thing about this is very much what SharePoint was designed for.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same information at the same time. If anybody who's a member adds somebody or deletes a record or amends it, SharePoint keeps a record called version history of every single change that's being made. The second reason why I love lists is I could then automate it to do certain things, but we're not going to go into that today. But I could use integrate, and I could create an app from this list so that people who are organizing the event don't have to go to their laptop. They now have the app, which is directly connected to SharePoint, and they can update the records as they are running their event. If you had members of staff with client names or information, they can update their records. It will update to SharePoint, which means everybody is updated in real time. It's a little bit scary how good the integration is with Power Apps.
Oh, I love it. I built a little app that is attached to Power BI, and the app sits in Power BI, and the SharePoint list is feeding the app, and then I pull the list into Power BI. So it's
so the brilliant. Integration is beyond amazing. but
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that because I don't want to do that at the moment. Let's go back to, that shouldn't have happened.
And it's the version control that you mentioned. Anthony's put in there that he uses SharePoint as basic version control. I use it for version control for sort of most things, really.
Well, that's the foundation of how SharePoint was designed. It means there's only one correct version, and everything you do, virtually everything you do, has version control automatically built in.
Yeah. Can you, when you get a chance, can you show, because Hakeem's asked in the chat he'd like to see version control. It's so simple, isn't it? Just to be able to click.
Yeah.
And
I haven't got any content in here, but give me 2 seconds.
yeah.
So if I go to new, when I join this site, everybody has access to documents. Because that's the idea. I'm sharing everything with everybody. But what I could do is I could create a new library. So I'm going to create a new library. I'm going to call this one new library. Create it. So I've now got documents here, which everybody has access to. But if I click on the new library, all I'd have to do is click on the gear, click on library settings, more library settings, and I can start looking at permissions just for this second library.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Well, everything in everything in SharePoint, everything is customizable. So the thing is SharePoint can be used for a husband and wife that have a small business and they want to keep all of their really important files and customers on it. But SharePoint could equally be used by the government of a country with 100,000 members of staff, because everything in SharePoint is customizable.
Yeah. Which is brilliant, but it also then takes you a while to get your head around how it works, doesn't it?
Oh, honestly, it really does. It's like, but then it's just a case of, if you think I want to make this customization, there's a 99% chance that the engineers at Microsoft have thought of it before. So with permissions, just quickly going into permissions, if I go to site permissions and I go to advanced permissions and I go to permission levels, add a permission level, can you see how many levels of permissions there are?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say what someone said that in the chat, Aurora. She said it's a balancing act between not enough permissions and too many permissions. And then someone else said about being the admin, trying to be an admin with all of the different. Is it easy to see what people have got?
Yeah, when you go back to the page before, it will list all the permission levels, and then you can click on the permission level to see who's in that group. But if you look at this here, this is just, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. I'm a proper trainer. That's better. This is just permissions for your lists. This is a separate set of permissions for what people are allowed to do on the site. And then these are personal permissions, which I don't know too much about.
Yeah.
Press Control, and that brings me back. So I've gone through documents. Now, every one of these bits on here is actually a separate page. So if you look at the top, these are pages. So I could create new pages and add them up here and have them in a hierarchy and all that stuff. So I can add pages that can have almost any content I want. I don't know if we're going to get time for that today, because I'm just going to edit this page. But page is just, I'll show you quickly. It just doesn't stop giving you choices. Blank, starter, training, recap, message, video, visual, etc. It's just so many options for you.
Yeah, someone said some of the permissions are not obvious with what they do, and then they cause you massive headaches to try and work out who can see what and use different things.
ChatGPT will tell you.
Yeah.
Now, this one I have not seen till recently. Honestly, I've like, where did this come from? I don't like it, but I'm going to show it to you. This is called a space. And I'm like, what is this? So we're going to call this SB space. And I'm going to choose. Can you choose which one you'd like? So gallery, art, studio.
Let's go for terrace. It's blue like the sea.
Terrace. So this is it. So this is just a 3D space. That's all it is.
Why would you do that?
How did I do what?
No, why would you do that? Why would you have a space?
I have no idea. I just think there's another piece of software that does it better, and Microsoft just want a copy for the moment. So I'm going to click. I'm going to click plus, and what I could do is I could go to my documents. So I'm going to go to documents. There's where I want the document. Oh, I didn't want it that way, so I'm going to come back. I'll upload. That'll be fine. Upload a file. I'm going to go to so can you see now I've actually got, if you look at the bottom, I've got a 3D image of the document. It's actually a picture, but it could be a document as well. So what's meant to happen is we're meant to meet in this space and show off our products. And it's just a 3D environment that apparently is very interesting. I don't like it, but that's what they've got. And I can move this around and all sorts. And we could meet in this space and walk around and look at the stuff we've done. I don't like it, but it will probably be really good in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I think also you'd be able to do stuff like put your 3D headset on and literally walk around the room and have a chat with each other. So it's interesting, but I'm not sure about it yet.
Yeah. Kind of like metaverse, Rahul said.
Yeah, if I knew what metaverse was, I'd agree with you. But yeah, I've got a rough idea. Yeah, it's like metaverse.
I think I saw something on that where you go to 3D chat rooms in the site.
Next thing we're going to look at is, this is especially useful if you have SharePoint as an app on your phone. So I might want to do a news post. And can you see, it's just ridiculous how many choices I have. So I'm going to do, I'm going to do a newsletter one, and it's already given me the templates. And I'm going to create the post just so you can see what it looks like. And can you see here?
Yeah.
I can start adjusting what's there. I can do the font. I can do the banner. I can change the picture, blah, 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 blah.
It's much easier. It's a bit like a web page, isn't it? When you're trying to build your own web page, it looks very similar to that.
It's not similar. It is just a web page.
Yeah.
But because it's Microsoft and the one I chose, I can post it to the SharePoint site, and I can also send it as an email to that group or other people as well. So it's already
send it externally then as well?
Only if I have the permissions to do so. So I need to check on that one exactly. A news, let me just check on here. I've not been asked that question before. No, I'd have to give it permissions to do
No.
that because people could accidentally share external information. Could you imagine if you had a message that said our new secret product is launched and we accidentally put an email address in there? So I was right what I thought. I would need to unlock the site to allow external people to have access.
Yeah.
I love the way it's designed. You can't send stuff out accidentally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice for the internal. It's like an intranet, isn't it?
Well, the communication site is often called an intranet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I go back here, I can create news, or I could do a news link and I would do something like BBC News. So I'm taking it from an external source. Everything except the link address can be adjusted. And because it's dynamic, when I go to my homepage, I'll start to see the updates for this sort of stuff as well.
What I loved about in lists is you can see there's so many settings in the background of lists that you know, like who you don't necessarily have to get them to fill in who entered it in the list in the app. It recognizes who entered it from the Azure settings, so it tells you who entered it.
Oh yeah, but if someone opens a file, in SharePoint, it automatically tells you who opened it, what they did, the day and time, and all the modifications. Because that's how SharePoint was built. We need to protect our resources, and everybody would know.
There's a question from Takimi. She said list's default setting is 500 records, and she wanted to see if she could find out how to expand it to 1,000.
I'm 99% sure that you would click on the list and then click on list settings, and then you'll have a button where you can adjust it. So if I go to documents, just very quickly, library settings, more settings, versions. This is got 500 by default. This is the number of versions I can have. So if you keep it as 500 and you've got very, very heavy files, up till 500, it will literally keep a copy of each file. If you want to save the memory on your computer, you might just change it to 100. I haven't looked at list settings, but I'm 99% sure it will have something that says how many records do you want in the list, and you can change the number there. I haven't checked it, but I'm 99% sure we could do that. Now, I just very quickly need to go to my other site because this is really, really, really important. So I've got some documents here. And this is one of the biggest arguments in the universe. What is the best way to find documents? So lists works in the same way, but here we're all used to this. But I can change how the columns behave. And again, because you're all good with data in Excel, you could probably do this 20 times better than me. I'd like to show you one option. So I'm going to quickly create a new folder.
Can you show the version control in a minute if you're in a document, if you've got one with?
So I've created a folder. That's it. So what I want to show you is a very, very quick trick here. So I'm going to add a column. And this is really cool to do if you've got lots of data. And I want to have the column that they can have a choice. There's more choices here. You know there's a lot more. So this is status. Is going to be the name of this column. You put the details in here. Yes, the choice. But look at this. Not started. In progress. You know what's going to happen now, don't you?
Yeah.
Completed. There's a lot more options, and because you're data people, you'll know how this all works. So the next thing I can do is I would rather change the color to red, not started, yellow, and I'm going to change this one to green because I just think it'll be easier for people to see what's going on there. There's lots more options, but what this means is I now have a column. I can also use Power Automate to say that if anybody adds a record to this library, they won't be allowed to add it unless they fill in the status, which is really cool as well. But that's another lesson.
Data validation, we like that.
We've got the new document here, so I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to say we've not started. I'm going to say it's in progress. I'm going to go back. And I'm going to say this one here. Oh, I didn't want to do that. That's opening the document. I'm going to just do.
Can you click on the 3 dots and just show version control? Because someone's not seen that before. They're asking in there. If you've got any.
1 second, please.
Yeah. My friend says that to me. He says, 1 second, caller. Which basically is stop it, Sue.
So what we've got here is we've got the documents. Now, I think the term is metadata.
Yeah.
But I can search for the name of the file. I can search for this. But I could also just produce up here. I could do a filter just to show me stuff that's in progress. And I've got the choice to do that here. So there's the filter there. So I can do filters on that. But another thing I could do is just type in, hopefully it will work. If I just type in progress. Can you see?
Nice.
It's now showing me whatever description. So this is a really simple version, but could you see that this is what we're used to seeing when we see documents? But if you add a column, you can start putting in whatever metadata you want just to make it better. And then you can use Power Automate for the validation purposes. What I'm trying to say with SharePoint is you can do whatever you want. That's basically what I'm telling you. If I click on the ellipsis, there's a button here called version history. And you can control how version history works as well. So there is a version here, and I would just click on it and it would open up that version.
I didn't realise that you could actually change the settings on version control. I think I've literally just skimmed the surface of this. I love the version control, and I love that I can go back and I can restore or resave. But I didn't realise that I had the ability to change the settings on version control in quite that. And of course, I hadn't thought about the saving of files as well.
Oh yeah, because it's all in one place. It just makes things.
But also the memory storage, the storage. You know, if you've got version control of big files.
I mean, I haven't even gone into all of these items up here. I've not gone into selecting a file. I've not gone into this one here, request sign off rules. I could create a rule that says if anybody changes anything, so if a new file is added, and now what I can do is I can say that anytime I've got a new file's been added, can you just send it to me automatically? Now there's lots more rules in here. If I click on the notification, they've changed this again since the last lesson, so everything's gone missing. But you can have it, so if anybody touches or looks at a document, you automatically receive an alert so you know what's going on. It's ridiculous. There's just so many things we can do. Now, I've got 13 minutes left, so I'm going to try and do my best. Do you remember earlier on, I removed everything from the page.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I did that is because you would need to customize your page, your SharePoint site. And this is the home page, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So what I'm going to do now is find the edit button, this one here. So this is the page at the moment, and there's lots of stuff going. Oh my goodness, they've changed the toolbox to over here now. Why have they done that? Okay, so there's two parts to making the page. The first thing you want to do is add sections to your page. Come here. That's me adding a section. That's going to be one column. 2 columns. 3 columns. But what you probably want to do is add a vertical section. That means there's going to be one coming down on the right-hand side. And that's my vertical section. This is good for stuff that's going to be continually updated.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm inside it, although they put the menu on here, I can click inside to add my content. So if I want to be really boring, I could just add some text.
Well, this is what someone's just said. Can you do comment on the page?
Yes, because I've turned it off at the moment. But if I turn comments on, people can now comment on any page that I produce. Next thing to do is, I don't want to use that one. Oh, a banner's a new one, not seen that one before. I want to add a button to my page. So when I click on the button, I must click on the properties. So here's my button. This button says BBC News. Put BBC News in again. And I can start changing where the button goes. And that, when I do save the page, will take me to BBC News. However, I could also just go to my documents page. And that's just a link, isn't it? So I could go back here and say, add me a button. No, I don't add a button. That wouldn't be the right one. Add me.
Oh, YouTube. Someone wanted to know if you had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's Paul Pennant Tech. So if you come here, I've now added my document library to the page. But what I'm trying to show you is this gets really crazy. I'm going to add a hero part. So I'm going to take this one out. Bam. So I'm going to add a hero part just so you can show off. So I click in here. There we are. And there's a part called hero. And this is the content. So I could select a link, and it could be from a link, and that's going to be BBC. Oh, that can be fine. Add that one in. I've got another link here. That's going to be BBC News. I'm going to go back.
So I'm presuming because Takimi said she embedded a Power BI report into SharePoint. So I'm guessing that the permissions for Pro follows through because it's all Microsoft.
So if I click on Power BI, there's my Power BI, and I'd need to add the report here.
Yeah.
And it will just be pop. Please carry on.
I was going to say, I'm guessing that you'll only be able to see it if you've got the relevant Power BI license, and that's all done with the Azure security groups, I would imagine.
All permissions based, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you get to know this, images, galleries, quick links, spaces, stream, YouTube, documents, or countdown timer, group calendar, organizational chart. It's not funny. There's 60 different parts you
So
can
the
add.
organization chart, how is that fed then for data? Where does the
I,
organization chart get its data from?
I'm thinking it's getting it from Azure, I think. I'm
Mm.
not sure. But
Yeah,
look,
it
this is
does.
my,
Comes from AD.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But what I'm trying to get you to understand is now, when you go back to my site, why is it not working? All site templates. Oh, there's something wrong there.
It's massive, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Named
1
entry
second.
ID now. Why did they do that? Why did
Don't
I
ask me
suppose
why.
entry?
I just accept things the way they are. Um, so because this is a relatively new piece of work, but if you go to here,
It's because all the videos for these sessions now are all stored in stream on the SharePoint site.
yeah.
It would be nice to have, but then YouTube, anyone can access it.
So I'm just going to quickly create the site here. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to show you the templates. So if you look at all these templates, when you look at them again, you're going to know exactly how they built them because they changed the menu. They put a hero at the top there. So all of these different things you see, all of them are just called web parts, of which there are over 60. Microsoft Forms, Power BI, etc., etc. So the next time you'll see a SharePoint site, you'll look at it and think, I know exactly how they built that site because they've just added different web parts to make it work.
Yeah, it is becoming more and more. Well, it's just an essential part of your work. I'm in SharePoint every day.
It's far more powerful than most people even have an idea of. Now, this is a terrible page. I don't have a lot of comments, but look, just gone to BBC News. Just gone to that image there. Just gone to that picture there. There's so much you can do. My friends, we have 4 minutes.
Yeah. Any questions for Paul before we finish? Anything you want to see? So what's the thing you're asked to train on the most on SharePoint, Paul?
Normally, it's just teaching people the foundations like I've taught with you.
Yeah.
I'm not a SharePoint MVP, so I know enough, but the real MVPs would know every single setting as to how to customize it.
Yeah.
And I don't know them all, and I keep on meaning to go through it all.
Yeah, but we did. I think what we would say within the data Power BI world is you can't know everything, but what you need to do is find out to know how to find out and to know what there is available. There is a question from someone, why is this so complicated?
I wouldn't say it's complicated. I would just say it's sophisticated.
Ah, that's a different word. And Anna's advice is it's best to tag document in SharePoint or put the tags in the documents. So what are tags?
This is the question. Nobody knows. You've got to decide what works best for your organization.
So what are tags then? Is that just where you categorize documents?
Who's asking? Who said?
Anna, one of the tags. She said it's best to tag. It's best to tag documents.
Well, yeah, you can go into. Oh, I've not tagged documents forever. Yeah. File. Oh goodness, options. There is a tagging feature, but I've not used that forever in a
Oh,
document.
really?
Yeah, I haven't used it for a long time. In fact, I can't remember where the tags are. Account, maybe. I can't remember where I did it years ago. I've not heard of tagging for ages.
Yeah. And file info.
I know it's over here
Oh,
somewhere.
there it is. Up there, at the top on the right, about 4th or 5th down.
Tags.
Yeah.
There it is, yeah. So I can add tags in here. It all depends on the culture of your organization.
And
how
how
you choose to
likely
work.
people will fill it in.
Yeah. But with SharePoint, you can force people to do certain things.
Yes, so they can't close it until.
The last thing I want to show you in 1 minute is morph in PowerPoint. Am I allowed to show you this?
Yes, why not? Someone's actually said there's so much overlap within the different products like Teams and OneNote and OneDrive. And
This is
Loop.
morph.
Yeah, Loop I've heard of, but I haven't used. Microsoft use Loop a lot.
And then there's Cameo.
So what's Morph? I missed that. I was looking at the chat.
Morph is where I need to turn my camera off very quickly. Turn my camera off. Morph is moving one object on the slide and then morph the second slide, and then it uses artificial intelligence. So here is morph.
Yeah.
But I'm using my picture there.
Yeah.
And I'm using morph and cameo at the same time.
Ah.
And it can completely change how you speak to your audience. Morph is easily my favorite thing. This is me showing you where we've got offices around the world, just using morph. It's spinning it on its own. It knows what I'm trying to do. So if you want to make your presentations a little bit cuter, what you might want to do is start playing around with morph. It's the best thing ever.
Ah.
There we are. Morph. That's slide number 1. That's slide number 2. They're actually 2 separate slides, but morph makes it look like it's one and it just moves from one side to the other. That's morph again. And when you are a little bit creative, you might start using morph to get your message out a little bit more. This one is one of my favorite ones. You only give people a corner of your picture, then you give them the whole picture. Then you can zoom in to something you want them to concentrate on. And that's just called morph.
Yeah, it reminds me of what did I used to use before, along with PowerPoint. It was a web-based presentation. Can't remember what it was.
They probably borrowed it from Prezi. But yeah, so that's really, Sue, I'm really glad that we had this session together. I've really had a great time. Yeah. Does anybody ever turn their cameras on?
They do sometimes, but anyone want to turn their cameras on? Anthony will. Hello, Anthony.
Could one person turn their camera on? So
you're still recording, Sue?
Oh, do you want me to turn it off? Hang on.
Turn it off, yeah.
I'll stop recording. We're not allowed. You are allowed. It's just if